G'day and welcome to another episode of Kiwi Car Life. And a few months ago I bought the cheapest Porsche in New Zealand. It even happened to come with a V8 engine. But today we're taking things up a notch because I have just bought the cheapest manual Porsche in New Zealand. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this Porsche Cayenne family SUV features a manual transmission. And the first question is no doubt, why? Well, Porsche, being the driver-focused company that they are, decided to equip not just their Boxster, Cayman and 911s with manual transmissions, but also their Cayenne SUV, which is how you end up with this car here. You could have the 6-speed manual optioned with the 3.2 litre VR6, like what this car has, or the 4.5 litre V8, and then with the facelift models of these, you could get it with the 3.6 litre V6 and in the extremely rare 957 GTS with the 4.8 litre V8. One of them just sold for nearly 100,000 USD the other day, so they are certainly desirable. This car, however, is not, which is how I managed to pick it up for just $3,800. There are some good points. It's got a good battery, it seems like it's been relatively well serviced, at least in recent times. It's got some really great all-terrain tyres on it, and the warrant of fitness isn't due for 6 months. But that's about where the good features of this car end. It has a lot of problems. On the outside, it naturally needs a good clean, but it doesn't just stop there. There's a catastrophic amount of paint fade all down the passenger side and on the front bumper. The rear wiper is completely toast. The mirror cap is broken and neither of the boot struts for the boot or the glass actually hold it open. Inside, it's thankfully mainly cosmetics. There's about 3 or 4 air vents that are broken, the passenger seat is ripped and the driver's side is starting to head towards that direction. There's a cubby here in the center console that doesn't close, the air conditioning doesn't work, the backs of the seats of these 955 Cayennes like to fall off and somebody's tried to put them back together with glued newspaper for some reason. The floor mats are missing the little eyelets that hold them in place, the headliner is sagging, and unfortunately with this one being a UK import, it's particularly poor spec. The last one that I had, the V8 one, at least came with a sunroof, auto lights, heated seats and the like. This one doesn't have anything. Someone basically walked into a showroom and said, "I'll have one Cayenne, please." And then we come to the mechanical faults. You'll see there is a mysterious extra fuel rail hanging off the edge and some holes in the boot. That is because we discovered after looking in the owner's manual that this car used to be run on LPG. There's also an extra little ECU cable tied to the frame rail with the wiring harness running over the hot exhaust manifold. Whoever did this LPG conversion did a pretty shoddy job of it, and all of that needs to go. You'll notice that when you drive it, while the manual gearbox feels quite nice, and it's actually a really good car to drive, the engine mounts on this particular example are completely shot. It feels like the whole engine is just wobbling around in there. There is a myriad of warning lights all over the dash. We scanned it, and the first big fault seems to be that the yaw sensor has died. The scan also revealed that one of the O2 sensors seems to have died. The valve cover gasket is leaking profusely, which has caused the spark plug holes to fill up with oil, causing an intermittent misfire. And this car also has a catastrophic exhaust leak, which makes it sound absolutely fantastic. Because this is basically a Golf R32 engine turned around the other way. In fact, it's even the same engine that I have in my TT, which means once this car is all completed, I will have 2 manual 3.2 VR6 all-wheel drive cars, just one featuring the smallest body it came in and one featuring the largest body. So let's crack in to getting this very rare manual Cayenne restored.
After getting a ride up to Auckland with my mates, I cracked into my usual job of filming a boatload of car reviews. Saturday was a BMW day where I had the privilege of driving a couple of M Lights and 3 proper M cars from the 90s, 2010s and 2020s along with an S63 AMG and Golf TCR. Then on Sunday I got behind the wheel of an awesome Ferrari F355 and the oldest car I've ever reviewed, a BMW i-Setter, before exploring the owner's amazing car collection of Man Cave. But the day before heading home I cracked into some important maintenance that I felt the Cayenne desperately needed to make it home in one piece. I installed a new rear wiper, fished the dimmer switch out of the dashboard, and tore the center console to pieces to replace the yaw sensor, with one I got from Pick Apart. While that was the code the car was displaying, it seems like that's actually a secondary issue to either a wiring fault or just a simple dead ABS module, as replacing the yaw sensor didn't fix anything. So after putting the ABS fault on hold for now, I moved on to the engine. The first job was to attempt to remove the remaining wiring from the LPG conversion. After removing all of the covers in the engine bay along with the intake pipe, I battled to get all 6 LPG injectors removed before moving on to the wiring harness. I figured I'd have a go at unplugging the ECU just to see if it was actually doing anything, but to my dismay, the car didn't start. Even though it was no longer running on LPG, clearly some signals were still passing through that extra ECU to make the car run. So I simply cut off the wires and plugs I knew weren't necessary and hid the ECU away in the fender. With the LPG stuff tidied up as much as possible, I then moved on to removing the intake manifold. There's 9 painfully difficult bolts to access on the passenger side, followed by 3 that hold the manifold to the block, a PCV breather hose and a couple of brackets on the front and back for a small wiring harness. Not very many bolts all things considered, but man it takes a long time to get them all undone. With the manifold flipped out of the way, I removed the 10mm bolts holding the valve cover on and revealed the surprisingly clean valve train. The gasket was in desperate need of replacing as it had basically turned to plastic, but with the valve cover cleaned and with a nice rubbery new gasket installed, the car was ready to go back together. After reseating the valve cover, I got some bolts to fill in the holes where the LPG injectors were screwed in to not introduce any new vacuum leaks, and then I put the manifold back on, reinstalled the intake and all of the engine bay covers, and replaced all 6 spark plugs and a couple of particularly nasty looking coil packs. With all that done, I was very pleased to report that it fired right up, although not without unleashing a huge plume of oily smoke in the engine bay as it burned off the oil that had dripped down into the cylinders while replacing the spark plugs. After driving the Cayenne, surprisingly without issue all the way home to Wellington, I had another go at fixing the ABS fault. I tested all of the fuses and confirmed they were all working, except for the front cigarette lighter. So I replaced that fuse and then discovered a few people suffering from water ingress corroding the footwell wiring. After exposing the harness, for some strange reason, there were about 4 or 5 wires that were just taped together. One particularly small brown one just disintegrated when I pulled the tape off. So I stripped it and taped it back together and voila, a fully functioning Cayenne. Amazing how just one corroded wire can wipe out the ABS, traction control, low range, diff lock, speedo and power folding mirrors all at once. Then I took the Cayenne down to my workshop to get a new O2 sensor installed, which got rid of the engine light. They replaced a coolant hose at the back of the engine that was leaking badly. I got the headlights sanded and re-clear coated to remove the haze, and I booked it in at an exhaust shop to get the exhaust leak welded up. Now it drove basically perfectly with a nice quiet engine, no warning lights, and a taut drivetrain that ran beautifully. So with the Cayenne driving great, I moved inside and removed the A, B and C pillar trims, along with the grab handles, lights and sun visors before taking out the headliner and re-gluing it. I tried to reglue the existing fabric, but it wouldn't stick to the foam, so I was left with no choice but to recover it with new material. I used a brush to rid the board of the leftover foam, and then recovered it in soft grey fabric. With it all stuck down, I trimmed away the excess material and glued it over the edge before reinstalling it back in the car. With the headliner removed, I also installed a couple of new gas struts for the boot so that it wouldn't bonk me on the head. Finally, I tore apart the centre console to figure out why the cubby wouldn't shut. Turns out there was a £2 coin stuck in the back, a relic of this car's original life in the UK. Now all it needed inside was a good clean. Fortunately, Porsche carpet is very good quality, so it was nice and easy to vacuum, and I thoroughly wiped down the dashboard trims and windows. Then I moved outside and gave the exterior a thorough clean. After years of neglect, there was heaps of road grime and mildew that poured out of all the gaps and crevices, and the wheels were coated with brake dust. But with all of that cleaned off, now I could start polishing. Unfortunately, while I had hoped that a lot of the paint fade would polish off, it was just too far gone to be saved. The parts that weren't faded, like the bonnet and fenders, came up really nice, but I guess the Cayenne will just have to remain a little bit rough on the outside. There were a few places that needed a spot of touch-up paint even after the polish, and I also used a metal polish to tidy up the exhaust tips. But with that, my Porsche Cayenne manual project was officially complete.
car life from the past here. I figured that I would do the driving section of the off-roading capabilities of the manual Cayenne before I restore it completely, because it's going to get absolutely filthy and ruined. So, low range, locking diff engaged. We're going to start in second gear, and let's see what the Cayenne can do. Despite the fact that this has the smallest engine that the Cayenne was available with only 250 horsepower, obviously the last one I had with the V8 had more than enough power to spin all four wheels, do big donuts and stuff. But to my surprise, thanks to the low range gearbox, aside from ground clearance, which is what this thing does struggle with a wee bit, especially in the middle, in low range, it actually has the power to really get plowing through a lot more stuff than you would expect. Last time getting over Devil's Gate was a lot easier because of course I had an automatic transmission. Now with a manual, this car's going to want to roll back on me. And power, 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 power. There we go. Oh, that time was much easier. Oh, jeepers. Whoa, 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 there we go. It can do it, man. That time was a lot easier. So the Cayenne made it over Devil's Gate all right. Now let's see if it can make it up this quite challenging off-roady bit here. I'm going to aim over this way. Use the traction control system. Come on, come on. Yeah, there we go, there we go. It takes a second to sort of figure out what it's doing, but when it does, then it's good. I say that, we are struggling a bit here, but it's getting there, it's getting there. Oh, and the big dip. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Come on, come on, come on. Yeah, there we go, look at that, eh? Look at that. That's not half bad, man. The only thing I don't like about it, compared with the Range Rover, the Range Rover reacts a lot faster with the traction control system to feed power back into the system. This, you'll notice, it goes, it slips, it takes a bit to figure out what it's doing, by then it's slipped back, lost its momentum, and then it has another go. The Range Rover can figure out much quicker what to do, which means it just sort of powers up in one big motion. This kind of goes, stops, goes, stops, goes, stops. But then going down again, braking down here, I'm not touching the throttle or the brakes at all, and it just kind of almost automatically keeps you at a very comfortable speed going down here all on its own. What an impressive car, eh? $3,800. We've been out to Red Rocks a few times since that first escapade now, and I think I've come to the conclusion that the problem with the Cayenne is not necessarily its traction control system, it's actually more its articulation. The Range Rover and other proper off-roaders are able to keep all four wheels in contact with the ground at all times because the suspension and the chassis can flex enough to keep them touching the ground. Whereas in the Cayenne, it tends to sort of skateboard its way up difficult slopes with one or more wheels regularly being up in the air because the suspension and the chassis are just too stiff. But the big advantage with the Cayenne, while it's not quite as capable as some of the competition off-road, is the way it drives on the road. For a 22-year-old 2.2 ton barge of an SUV, this thing drives really, really good, I've got to say. With 6-piston Brembo brakes in the front, it stops much quicker than you would expect for a car of this sort of weight. And the clutch, the brake, the throttle response, and the way this excellent 6-speed manual transmission feels is simply sublime for a car like this. And the sound is just an absolute delight. It's literally like driving a Golf R32 that can go off-road. It has that classic VR6 warble to it, a sound that you don't normally associate with a Porsche. And the handling is also surprisingly impressive. It's got great steering feel, and the slightly stiffer suspension that means it's a little bit less capable off-road means that here on the road the body roll is kept to a minimum. And because underneath it's just a Volkswagen Touareg with a Volkswagen Golf R32 engine, parts are very readily available and they're so cheap to buy. I got this for $3,800, which admittedly is probably a little bit more than I wanted to pay, but nonetheless, now that all is said and done, the car owes me $5,000. $5,000 for a manual Porsche SUV that, sure, is not extremely capable off-road, it's certainly not terribly fast, and it gets appalling fuel economy, but despite this car's many pitfalls, I absolutely love my manual Cayenne. The V8 one that I had previously was in better condition and was faster and was arguably, for all intents and purposes, a better car, but just the fact this is manual to me, is this car's ultimate cool feature, which is why I absolutely love it. Thank you very much for watching. If you'd like to see some other restorations that I've done on the channel, then click the links popping up right about now, and I will look forward to seeing you again next time.